Hi, Mish here, and we've already shown you the special edition SiG SG553SB Army, the STGW.07K. But now we're out here at the range with its big brother, the 553LB Army Edition, STGW.07. And we'll go to the table and talk about this in a minute. But you know what? There's not enough of a marking behind this ejection port. All of these get test fired at the factory, but what are you going to do with a gun like this? Only 5 in the country. But shoot it. Plus, hey, the safety folks should love this out here. With that, let's put a few rounds to it. 553LB with GP90. Safety is on. Absolutely no surprise with Swiss 5.6 GP90 ammo, Swiss ordnance stuff. She ran perfectly. But what about other brass case? And hell, what about Wolf steel case? 53LB Army. Brass Gila. Now, because why not, let's fire a few rounds of Steel Wolf. Good there?
Good.
Now she's getting a bit of an honest mark. I know some people like to put tape behind here to keep their finish from getting marred up, and I've often joked that wouldn't it be funny that they put the tape on and after years of being stuck there and everything else, the tape, when they try to go peel it off, takes the finish off. At any rate, honestly, wear like this that just happens during function in no way bothers me. If it was untoward, undue, it'd be a different story. With that, this is the STGW.07, like I said. Let's compare it with the STGW.07K, the shorty. We'll shoot it, get Jay's opinion, and then come back here to compare and contrast features. Okay, with the 553SB. What ammo was that?
This is just a Wolf 55 green steel case.
Sacrilege. And now Jay with the 553LB.
Clear.
What do you think about it compared to the SB?
They're very similar. I like having that little extra barrel length, honestly, on the LB, personally.
Yeah.
Feel is about the same.
What do you think about weight, balance? Any noticeable?
It's a little harder to tell because this has a flashlight and the rail accessory.
Yeah, true.
So it balances a lot heavier in the front because of all the extras. So it's hard to make a direct comparison.
Alrighty. Both were 100% reliable. No surprise there. This is my conversion kit upper. You've seen it in another video or two. I think the LB is ever so slightly more enjoyable to shoot. Now, it is heavier. No ifs, ands, or buts about that. So maybe carrying the SB is more practical. But actually just shooting the LB, because of its weight, is a bit more enjoyable. Of course, in the back, they're equal. This one has the clamp-on adapters, but same top rail, same gas system, same handguards, except this one has the rails bolted on and this one does not. This one has the folding sight. This one has the little slim sight. So the difference is up front. The LB, as you know, is a 13.6, 13.7 inch barrel with a fixed flash hider. It is internally threaded, has a grenade ring, and it has a Swiss bayonet lug. It also has a 2-position only gas regulator, standard and adverse. Compare that with the SB here. This is a 8.9 inch barrel with 3-prong flash hider and 4-way gas regulator, standard, adverse, and then if you rotate it over, you have fully closed and you have a suppressor setting. No bayonet lug because, well, there's not enough room. Originally, like the 5.52, these were threaded 14x1 left hand and used a prong Rotex flash hider, as you see here. But newer ones, like you saw in the original STGW.07 video, are threaded 1/2x28 and feature a Surefire flash hider. So, same principle, just a different mechanism. So with those basic differences, we can talk about how these kind of fill different roles in the Swiss Army, the Swiss military. In the Swiss military, the STGW.07, the shorty, is analogous to this gun, the US's Mark 18, which you saw this in a recent video of ours. Unless you didn't, in which case you might like it, because we talk about this, the annual defense gun. Both are used by special forces and are kind of optional equipment. Both are made to be easily and readily suppressed. Both are as short and compact as possible, given the platform. This is a 10.3 inch barrel. Like I said, this is a 8.9. Both are used by either commandos, special forces, for example, the military police, the reconnaissance units, paratroopers, what have you. As much as Switzerland has special forces, or special forces command has a goodly number of these in inventory. They're short and handy, but they're not for the average person. For more on this, as well as the full kit that both this and the full-size STGW.07 comes with, check out the original video we put out a few weeks ago. We go through everything in the Pelican case here. So yeah, this is a special gun kept for special purposes, special needs, just like the Mark 18. Mark 18. 553SB. Held open. Funny how it works better now. On the other end of things, and the reason that the Swiss Army really needed something shorter and lighter is because of, the original gun here, the STGW-90. And below here is kind of its analog, the M16A2. Now I picked the A2 over an A4, even though this is on an A4 lower, because both have finely adjustable fixed iron sights, and neither have railed handguards. The Swiss gun has a barrel, including flash hider, of just under 21 inches. The American gun, a barrel right at 20 inches, plus flash hider. American gun, of course, has a fixed stock, and the Swiss has a folder. Both are not exactly light. The M16 because of its relatively heavy barrel, and the Swiss gun because, well, it's an SG553 gun. Steel lower, bipod. It's not going to be terribly light. This too has the integrated flash hider, grenade ring, bayonet lug, fixed diopter sights, 2-position only gas regulator, full-length gas system, and fires 5.6 GP90 with a 1 in 10 twist rate. Very similar to this gun here. This is fires 5.56 M855 with a 1 in 7 twist. This is a 62 grain round. This is a 63. And really they were both introduced into service around the same time, 1985, 1986, although it really took a bit of time for both to really fully equip their militaries. This has been, and still very much is, the standard issue gun in the Swiss Army, the one that soldiers take home and care for. This is what your basic recruit gets. But with this long barrel, even though it has a folding stock, the weight and everything does not make it well suited to special forces, just as the M16A2 and M16A4 were not. Yeah, 15A4. SIG550. Held open. And here the STGW.07 is, with its bayonet attached. Why not? Typical fine Swiss craftsmanship. It fits on very easily and has essentially zero play, so the tolerances are very precise. Pretty standard blade, scabbard with kind of faux leather frog. It kind of reminds me of the material some German mag pouches are made out of. It doesn't really have a button or clasp, but again, the tolerances are such that it's not going to fall out. Bayonets are just neat. But yeah, this was not going to suit the military's needs forever. So, as the 21st century dawned, they started looking to purchase more specialized guns, at least for their professional soldiers. And now we're back to the gun we started with. And it's analog in the American military, the M4A1. I picked the M4A1 over the M4 because early M4s could still use iron sights and didn't always have rails. But later ones, those would be standard features, just as with the STGW.07. Now, of course, the M4 is longer. 14.5 inch barrel plus flash hider versus 13.6, 13.7, including flash hider. The actual rifle part of the barrel is about 12 inches. So, still a little longer with the M4, but the M4 M4A1 is the standard issue, whereas the STGW.07 is used more in a traditional true carbine role. Even though the M4 is called a carbine, it's issued, deployed, used more like a traditional rifle would have been. Yeah, just thought I'd bring the Colt out real quick. And I've been doing this just to kind of give you an idea of where these guns kind of fit within the Swiss military hierarchy. Most in the Swiss Army, but the Swiss Air Force does employ some as well. With that, let's get down to brass tacks. Franklin being ridden by a pony. 553LB one more time. No bumping.
Your lens cap was on.
Oh dear. The original, the first, STGW90, BE90, and of course the SG550, weighs just over 9 pounds, empty, with one empty mag, and its connected light bipod. It is a little under 39.5 inches with the stock open, and with it folded, we save almost exactly 8.9 inches, so just a hair under 9, meaning we're a little bit under 30.5 inches long. Not bad considering how long the barrel is. 20.7 on the standard rifle. But comparing that to the 552 Commando and 553 Commando. Now weight's a little hard to determine because of configuration. These can be as light as 7 pounds, or as heavy as at least 7.5 pounds before you start adding gear. But that's kind of the case with any modern equipment. We do save quite a bit of weight by having the short gas system. Of course, here is the folding brace. For the SB, be it the 552 or the 553, STGW.04 or STGW.07K respectively, we are just under 29 inches, about 28 3/4 inches with the stock open, and just under 20 inches with it closed at about 19.8, again saving about 8.9 inches. For the LB, add roughly 3.2 inches to that, so you're looking at 23 inches, give or take, with the device folded. Call it device here just because, you know, it is not a stock and it doesn't want to fold because it's really stiff, which is good. And so we would be at just under 32 inches with it fully deployed in its standard 13.6 inch barrel. Now, both have integrated flash hiders, but this one is not internally threaded, and this one is. And you saw at the beginning of the video, this blank fire device. Has pretty short threads here that you can screw in on, and there you go. The little bit of extra threading adds about 1/10 of an inch, while the standard military SGW90 does not have those threads. I have seen newer production rifles from SiG that are internally threaded, but typically those have the pick rail upper, not the diopter upper. course, the LB not only features a ring to launch rifle grenades, it has a bayonet lug. It takes the same bayonet, like I said earlier, it's held into the scabbard very securely, but just with friction. And as typical Swiss engineering would give you to think, it goes on very easily, but also very securely with almost no play, just the tiniest amount, which you do want a little bit of flex there. Something that's kind of interesting, with the stock folded on the 550 types, it's only a little bit shorter than with the STGW.07, the 553LB types. Really goes to show you how they are saving on length and weight, and this is a more compact weapon. And actually, to help even save more on weight, last year the Swiss Army finally approved the use of the machined alloy lower as an option instead of the traditional stamped and welded steel. Another new option has to do with the buttstock. For the first couple of generations, the first couple of decades, we just had this side folding stock with a fixed length of pull. But around the same time that the SG553 replaced the original SG552 Commando, they introduced a new stock option, the adjustable. It still folds, but now it has three links, three, basic positions. It's very stiff too. This is fully in, and if I can get it here on camera, maybe. There we go. I told you it's stiff. It's easier to do when you've got the gun up against you, but still. When it's fully out, it's the same length as the standard military stock here. But when it's collapsed in, it's perhaps better for people wearing thick winter clothing, body armor, or maybe smaller stature soldiers or police. Or just to make the gun a little bit more compact for tight urban entry-level situations. This is an option. They still make the non-adjusting stock, but it seems like, especially when you go to the rails, and all the more modern military guns have the adjustable, which makes a lot of sense. One more thing, the bayonet lugs are ever so slightly changed with these. The original lug is just held on with a heavy-duty roll pin, and it's solid, and it pokes out the back just a little bit. But unfortunately, with that, it interferes with the newer quad rails, such as those made by B&T, Berger and Thomat, because they protrude ever so slightly into this ring. So what they've done with the newer 553 lugs and systems, they've actually modified the lug here. The front takes the same bayonet, but they've cut it back, and they've ever so slightly chamfered the cylinder, and that's where the B&T quad rail can go in. And with that, it also gives a little more support. Since the hole in the gas block is in a fixed location, they're stuck there, so they just kind of had to shorten the lug a wee bit. To be fair, a lug is probably not exactly a high priority, certainly not compared to rails, but it's nice that you don't have to pick either or remove bayonet lugs just if you want to install rails. The STGW-90 was primarily ordered by the Swiss Army starting in 1986 and running through about 1997. And by the 21st century, they had had all they need. These guns are built to last. So with regular, refurbishment as needed, the ones they have should last them a long time. But it is a big, heavy iron sight gun. And thus we have room for something like this. The 550 will still be the standard issue throughout the infantry and reserves and most of the militia for the next several decades. So with that, let's talk about the carbines here. While a carbine version of the original rifle was planned as the STGW-90K and did go into production as the SG551, it was never officially adopted and purchased in any numbers by the Swiss military. Thus, throughout the 1990s, this is what they had, replacing their older STGW-57s, which it was shorter and lighter then, but that's not exactly something to be proud of. In mid-1998, SiG, still under that name, actually one of the last products they would release, came out with the 552 Commando. This introduced a sub-carbine length gas system. Originally it had an 8.9-inch barrel. Later they would introduce the 13.6-inch barrel for more military users. And this became a pretty successful product for them. It was purchased in small numbers, but by several people all around the world. But the Swiss Army was a little slow. In fact, they did not officially designate it until 2004 as the STGW.04, buying both the short and long barrel versions. And these started to be issued at first to units of the Special Forces Command, especially the short barrel, the SB. For example, the Army Reconnaissance Detachment would have some, or division, I should say. Yeah, whatever. You know what I mean. ARD-10. There we go. And this was a group kind of charged with counterterrorism, both domestic and abroad, protecting Swiss citizens and their interests. And they would often prefer the short barrel, but they had the long barrel. On the other hand, the Parachute Reconnaissance Group 17 seems to prefer the long barrel. Now, interestingly, the Parachute Reconnaissance are part of the militia, and they're partially under the auspices of the Swiss Air Force. Another special group that's known to issue these guns is the Military Police Special Detachment, and they prefer the short barrel, which makes sense considering their urban use and kind of where they're at. But the Special Forces Command is only a small part. They have about 2,500 members now. They had about 3,000, and not all of those needed a carbine even. So while the SB is pretty uncommon in the Swiss military, but it exists, the LB is a little more common, still far less than the full size here. But one or two typically get issued on the squadron, platoon level, and are typically kind of perched on, claimed by either the CEO or an NCO or just anyone else who can justify getting a shorter and lighter gun. And these are not guns that can be taken home. These will be left at the depot, the barracks, what have you, under government military custody. Whereas the standard full-length rifle still goes home with the soldier. Likewise, while the standard rifle seems to still come with the 20-round mags here, 2 of them, the 5.52 and now 5.53 come with the 30-round mag. They still have the same 4-way selector, safe, semi, burst, full auto, but of course they do have a higher cyclic rate. Originally they would have iron sights, but as the 5.52 gave way to the 5.53 between 2007 and 2008, the STGW.04 and 04K would be replaced by the STGW.07 and 07K, and many of the original 04s would be updated with a conversion kit offered by SAN, turning them into 04/07s. Waste not, want not. It definitely reminds me of how Switzerland treated their pre-K11 Schmidt-Rubin carbines. So, what makes this particular model unique and interesting? And if you saw the original video on the short barrel, you pretty much know. It's the same deal, just the long barrel. Like with the short barrel, only 5 were imported, and it has a unique serial number with an A in it to designate the Army Special Edition and Army configuration, and like that, it is totally spec'd out like SIG would be shipping a current gun to the military. We have an aim point micro T2, aim point detachable magnifier. Of course, originally it would have the 3-position stock, but this has a brace on it. It comes with 2 mags. They can either be the stud or the smooth style. It comes with 2 handguards, a standard and a set with the metal rails bolted on, a tri-rail. Has the 2-way regulator, as I pointed out. It does come with a bayonet lug. It's even the special right type. It does come with this wonderful range officer pleasing blank fire device. Flip up iron sights, and this B&T branded weapons light. Pretty cool light, honestly. On and off switch. Another thing the military gun would have would be a Brugger & Thomat QD foregrip, but since this is a pistol, that can't be put on. And of course, if you SBR it, no problems then. Still has the steel lower, still marked SIG on top. Kind of neat. It comes with essentially the same accessories as the SB. Comes with the rail panels, the custom Pelican case, certificate of authenticity specific to the LB, military cleaning kit. Doesn't come with the bayonet, sadly. That'd be kind of neat. The only difference is in the gear. The SB comes with the Surefire flash hider and the standard bird cage. Since this one has a fixed, it's not going to do anything. So instead of 2 flash hiders, you get the blank fire device. And of course, the SB doesn't have the bayonet lug. But on the other hand, the SB has the 4-way gas regulator. So, you know, for one thing, one doesn't have, the other one seems to have, and vice versa. Certainly a neat gun for collectors, because essentially this is a real Swiss Army STGW.07, just with a semi-auto lower and without the cutout in the upper for the auto sear. Otherwise, it's all here and spec'd out as close as is possible. Today, at the end of 2020, the 553 series seems to have a very good future for SiG, at least brighter than they've had in recent years. The 552 was popular, but it had a couple of major flaws to do with the recoil system and the bolt. When they went to the 553, these were fixed. They continue to be purchased by special forces and SWAT teams around the world, and by the Swiss military. Next year, there will be a pretty substantial contract of several thousand, certainly more than the Special Forces Command should need, so it's most likely these will go to the Army, or maybe even the Air Force, and they're buying a mix of LB and SB, so it'll be interesting to see how those get deployed, and, just general speaking use. Plus, paratroopers are just neat. They've also expanded the product line, both semi-auto and full auto, different calibers, 300 blackouts most recent. They do the SB. Now the newer ones are threaded to half by 28. And they do the LB, as seen here, single piece. But they also do a two-piece barrel, threaded half by 28, where you can unscrew the flash hider to install whatever you want. And they still do offer them, at least in theory, with the traditional diopter sights, but they're getting less and less common, and the lead time to get one is getting longer and longer. And kind of even the 20-round mags are not as common as in most of the guns today. Always ship with a 30. Anyway, if you'd like to know more about the special edition Army guns and see the full kit in its glory, Pelican cases are neat too. Check out our original video. I don't know. I know this is kind of retreading ground, but these are new and there hasn't been much else to talk about, and it's been really fun researching these. And it was a lot of fun shooting a expensive gun, to be honest, especially with wolf ammo. Just to kind of, just a little bit of trolling in there. People just, you know what I mean? A little bit of the devil on your shoulder type thing. But no, this gun ate everything as you'd expect. As did the SB. These are very high quality guns. They are definitely built to last too. I mean, there's really not much that can go wrong on these. I mean, you can break the furniture. That's replaceable very easily. And you might want to put in fresh springs every 20,000 rounds. So at most, you might need to replace the charging handle. Sometimes the rubber might crack. You'd think the rubber here would, but it really doesn't, strangely. Not frequently, anyway. But the trunnion, the cold hammer forged barrel, the upper, the lower, they're about as bulletproof as anything firearms can be. And the guns are dirt simple, too. Anyway, let you go for now. Appreciate you tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, or if you have any information on Swiss guns, please feel free to share it in the comments below. As always, if you'd like to help support the channel, please check out the link to our Patreon page. With that, this is Misha, and also on behalf of Jay, we will both catch you very soon next time.